Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our, gosh, it looks like program 181 or something like that. I rely upon my trusty communications team to correct me if I'm incorrect. And we're at reading 117. We're on page 174, and the last time we did this, a couple of weeks ago, I think, we had, I think, a very interesting few paragraphs that just at least bear looking over once again. I do want to welcome, nobody should be in the waiting room anymore. They should be coming out. Annette Ebbett is there. Anyway, with Michael Crow and BL and Joe here, I feel like we might get through the program without major mishaps.
Michael,
yeah.
As your trusty admin in the background, I just looked, and it looks to me like we're beginning program 181, reading 118.
Okay. It's okay with me, whatever's accurate. And I make no brief for myself in terms of keeping all these numbers straight. I know that when you put them up on Makara and Joe and Harold are getting them on the YouTube, that you will straighten out my mistakes. So I'll put it that way. That's okay with me. And the other one right before it would be program 117, I suppose.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. So anyway, just saying hi with appreciation for your presence, Martha from Denmark, and Anne from Los Angeles, and Annette from New Zealand, and Astra, I'm not sure where from, but welcome, and BC, Oshinbolu. So maybe, well, I don't know, but welcome, BC. And Brennan is here too, from Arizona. Carl, welcome. And Catherine from Australia, and Francois, I think, of course, from Canada. And Fred, welcome, Fred. And Georgina, welcome. And Heike from Germany. And Joan Schofield, welcome. And Joe Healy from South Korea. Martine, well, it's French name. I'm not sure where you're located, but we'll find out. And Olivia, welcome, Olivia. And I think it's Nyenka Rutterdink. Welcome, Nyenka. And Tia from the Washington, D.C. area, and Yvonne Weniger, and from Pennsylvania. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see you here. And, the main thing is, if you can't pick up one of these programs at the exact time that we're talking about things, you can pick them up later. And I think it will be useful to you. Today, we're going to meditate on the getting rid of the glamour of suspicion. And I guess all of us who have been studying the current situation will know why we want to do that. That, along with self-pity and criticism, are considered to be the three main causes of glamour. So, last time when we worked together, we looked at, and I'm not going to do any kind of extensive review. Basically, we looked at the technique of the presence, which is used to dispel illusion. So in a way, it is the highest of the techniques, and tells us how the masters use the mind, because normally they use something much higher, but in order to connect with us, they use something that can reach us more easily. Then the technique of light we examined, and that's the one we focus on mostly because it has to do with soul power and with the ajna center and with the power of illumination. So it's very useful in relation to the astral plane, just the way the technique of the presence is useful in relation to the mental plane. And then the technique of indifference, well, like it says here, it renders ineffective or neutralizes the hold of substance, I guess etheric, physical, over the life or spirit functioning in the three worlds. For soul is the evidence of life. So, and then he tells us, of course, interestingly, and we have to meditate on it. We don't use the word faith, we use the word light. Light is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And may I say, we're always entering into a new light at a new point of tension. Every new point of tension rising on the rungs of the ladder of evolution is a point of revelation, of added revelation. We can enter into higher and higher lights. And well, of course, it's interesting to realize that that the great absoluteness, which is the one and only ultimate reality, doesn't have light and dark connected with it. Doesn't have those qualities. It just is, and it is forever. And as the old Vedantists would tell us, thou art that. They go beyond this arena of self-perception, we call a universe, into something that is truly real. A universe is still a finite, myopic illusion. And we have to dwell upon those things. Yesterday in Identify as Being, I gave some little mantric formulas, which I thought were very much to the point. And basically, they had to do with the stillness of the heart, not the beating of the heart, which is timed and also myopic, but the stillness of the heart, which is filled with life essence. And I said these words, it was isness first, just two words, isness first. That is, before you do anything with the form that you are going to seek to examine, find the isness of the form. It's a lot like saying being first, reality first, substantiality first. There are first things, and we need to find a way to detect that. I've been working on this a lot today, and I realized, boy, it's powerful if it works correctly, because it rescues you from captivation by differentiation. See, most of us are captive of myopic differentiation. The form has captured us and all of its differences and limitations, and we're stuck. But if we can find the isness before we start investigating the form, something happens in the life principle, which is found in the heart center. So it requires practice. Now, going on, we apparently ended this a couple of weeks ago. And we're on page 194. And this is the 30th of July. And I'll just kind of keep going here for a little while. And you can take notes or see what it is you might like to discuss or make mention of, etc. My method is not as complex or cumbersome as it was before. I'm just allowing myself to dilate a bit between DK's sentences if I feel so moved, but I think you will not have any difficulty in determining what DK said compared to what I'm trying to offer. So anyway, 3 great techniques are discussed in this book, Glamour, A World Problem. And well, basically, we have to learn to use all 3. And every one of those words is a generic word. Let's just say that illusion is generic and covers all 3. Glamour is generic and covers all 3. And Maya is generic and covers all 3. But DK gives us the specifications of how those different areas have to be cleaned up. And we are, so many of us may be chelas in the light, and every now and then a superior disciple on the inner planes makes a report to the master concerning how we're doing. And eventually we become truly accepted disciples, and we move on from there to the still higher points of tension, the chela on the thread and the chela in the master's aura, definitely a 3rd degree initiate by that time, and chela within the master's heart. It's offering the possibility of the 4th initiation, and then something he doesn't really mention much about, but it's the blending of the lights, the 7th stage of discipleship. And the chela has become a master himself. Now, Master DK says he has 5 masters working in his ashram. Now, if he was positioned within the ashram 2 sub 2, and then he counted downward 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that would make sense. But we just don't know for sure. And we do know that Master Kuthumi, the Chohan of the second ray ashram, contains all of that. Whatever Master DK has as an ashram and whatever other masters have as still more subsidiary ashrams, they are all contained by Master Kuthumi, who is in a way, like all the other Ray Chohans, contained by the Christ, who is contained by Sanat Kumara, who is contained by the fullness of the planetary logos, who is contained by the fullness of the solar logos, and on it goes. So we live in a very expansive universal situation until we rediscover what we really are, and we don't settle for mistaken identity, such as all of us really do, but we'll be done with that big mistake before long, and we'll melt away or dissolve away or do something with these false rings past not. Anyway, just a little, little background there. And going on a bit, because reading first, right? And then having a chance for some questions or statements or whatever, and then getting into a meditation on the glamour of suspicion. When, therefore, students and aspirants have made progress in soul contact, and I would ask, have we really done so? Well, maybe when you think back over your incarnation, you will notice there has been some progress, right? Let's hope so. So repeating there what Master DK says, when therefore students and aspirants, maybe he distinguishes between the two, not every student is a true aspirant. Students and aspirants have made progress in soul contact. They have taken one of the first important steps towards the comprehension of light and its uses. We, okay, I'm gonna, excuse me, I decided that if I can get some of this stuff on my lap, it maybe works a little better if it doesn't fall on the floor. So anyway, light. Well, let's just say that the scientists, whom DK says are the real occultists, they are penetrating into the mysteries of light, but their understanding of light is still very limited because there are all of these different lights into which the progressing consciousness can enter at ever higher points of tension. For instance, he's telling that man, that Jesuit priest he was, that the meditation he's giving him will help with his problem and service until such time as you enter into that light wherein consciousness awakens free from the bonds of flesh. Well, how much does contemporary science, as advanced as it may be, know about that type of light and still higher lights. So many mysteries there are in relation to the solar system in which we live and the ever more inclusive containers, cosmic, supercosmic, and so forth. We're just on the edge of being acquainted with some of these things, and we have to proceed patiently, I guess I would have to say. So the comprehension of light and its uses, we have to become light bearers. Now, by the way, the second ray is called, as you know, the ray of light bearing influence. And well, every ray has its own type of light, but the most luminous from the point of view of the human soul is the second ray. And from the point of view of the Ray Lord, the most luminous Ray Lord is the fifth. So the mysteries of light lie ahead of us in terms of our comprehension. Okay, going on with DK, they must, however, be careful not to confuse the light which they can bring to bear on life, circumstance, events, and on environment with the intuition. Now, that's a very thought-provoking statement, isn't it? Because oftentimes light and intuition have such a close connection. But we're talking about life and circumstance and events and normal environment, etc., and where the intuition really functions. Now, does the intuition function in relation to our common environment, or on what level does it function? So let's look. Going on with DK. The light with which we are concerned, and that's a hint, of course, there are other types of light with which we are not concerned, at this time anyway. The light with which we are concerned expresses itself in the three worlds and reveals form and forms, their reaction and effects, their glamour and attractive appeal, and their power to delude and imprison the consciousness. Now that's one form of light. The light concerned is soul light, illuminating the mind and bringing about revelation of the world of forms in which that life is immersed. So there is a kind of light that deals with the revelation of the nature of form, okay? We'll try to get that straight because that's maybe the light that we use the most. It is a light that we can maybe understand, and it clarifies the factors that we call personality. But, going on with DK, the intuition, now this is a big statement, okay? Really big statement. The intuition is concerned with nothing whatsoever in the three worlds of human experience. Now, right there, may I say, even if we stopped right there, that's a shocker compared with how we usually use the term intuition. I've got this intuition about this and that, and we apply it to ordinary life circumstance, but apparently not, okay? So repeating here what DK says, the intuition is concerned with nothing whatsoever in the three worlds of human experience, but only with the perceptions of the spiritual triad and with the world of ideas. Now, where does that world of ideas really begin? Well, it's within the realm of the triad, and not even within the realm of the soul as a center upon the higher mental plane. So right there, we have something that we really have to ponder. And I wonder, what are the perceptions of the spiritual triad? Or let's say when our consciousness is infused with triadal energy, what are we perceiving? And we are, perceiving, I think, some little vestige, some little aspect of the mind of God, our planetary logos, the love of God, our planetary logos, the will of God, our planetary logos, some elevated perspective that has to do with how the will, the love, and mind of the planetary logos operate on the cosmic physical plane, or we can call it the cosmic etheric physical plane, which is our main map, because even the great masters and Chohans and even the Christ have not really stabilized themselves beyond that level. Now, let's see. Here's an analogy, and let's see if it brings any light to the consciousness. The intuition is to the world of meaning what the mind is to the three worlds of experience. So we're dealing with opposites in a way, or with two factors, one of which is elevated above the other. The world of meaning is particularly found in relation to the soul, or to the angel of the presence. And then the three worlds of experience are below that world of the soul. So let's say the intuition is coming from, may I say, the world of significance. What does it signify? What does the triadal perspective signify? It signifies true essence, or the very heart of the monad. It points in that direction. It is a derivation of the three aspects of the monad. So this intuition, what does he say here? It produces understanding, just as the light of the soul produces knowledge. Now, let's look at that. He deals with understanding at the beginning of this book, and it has to do with, well, the usual kind of statement: standing under, standing beneath, standing within. And knowledge is different from understanding, and knowledge is different from wisdom. Think about that for a minute. See, knowledge, let's say, is more superficial than either understanding or wisdom. Understanding and wisdom go together. Let's see here. I'm doing what I said I wouldn't do. I'm kind of highlighting and outlining things, but I'm not going as far as I did before. But, here is a nice analogy that can really be pondered. Intuition is to the world of meaning, that is, within the soul, on its own plane, what the mind is to the three worlds of experience. Somehow, the higher is capable of interpreting the lower. The intuition produces understanding. Now, right there, we should pause and say, do we know how to be a substantial to whatever we perceive? Do we know how to stand under and be connected and yet detached from what we perceive? If you find yourself as the very source of the perceptions that you have, and you know that they arise out of what you really are, then you're achieving some degree of understanding. And when you understand, there's the factor of identification, which is promoted. I think he said to Roberto Assagioli, as a KH disciple who was helping the Tibetan, that his understanding was rare. Now, when you begin to really realize that anything that's going on in someone else, you are somehow familiar with, because it has happened with you, and you know the experience, not just that you sit in judgment, but that you have a heart understanding, a loving understanding, because this is a familiar experience. At least members of the new group of world servers should have that attitude or realization. For those who are passing through the first degree and the second degree, because such members have been there, done that. We can imagine that Christ, as the great initiator of the first degrees, has a profound understanding of the candidate who stands before him. in the causal body, basically, which is, in a way, the temple of initiation. It's so different to sit in judgment over someone and contrast that with true heart understanding. There's some kind of intimacy in understanding, even the understanding of those whose behavior we find destructive and very repulsive, not to be followed, to be shunned, etc. Even there, we recognize in them something that is in ourselves. I think that's where the major problem is coming in these days with the younger souls, which have now incarnated in the United States and other countries too. They just haven't been through enough. They have had a shorter term of evolutionary development. They just don't understand, but they certainly do judge. And the whole January 6th insurrection was the result of great misunderstanding. I can't deviate too much right here, but some of you saw the 4, let's call them heroic defenders, police officers who put their life on the line, protecting senators and members of the House of Representatives, and were rewarded by some of them with an inconceivable disrespect and fabrication. Well, you know, we've got to get rid of this selfishness, which is a great danger to humanity at this time. Going on with the Tibetan, he says, knowledge is not a purely mental reaction, but is something which is found on all levels and is instinctual in some form in all kingdoms. Obviously, the lower kingdoms don't know they have knowledge. They don't have the self-consciousness yet, but they do have knowledge. When I watch my very third-rate cat opening closed doors by jumping and taking in her paws the handle to those doors, and just, you know, waiting till we are away to do that, that's knowledge. And she has it, and our nice, more second-rate cat doesn't have that yet. He just waits for the door to be opened for him, you know. So there's a lot of instinctual knowledge. Even we might say that in an atom of substance, whether an atom will combine with another or will not is a factor of some kind of very deeply immersed type of knowledge, deeply immersed in the very matter of things. So knowledge is not DK says, a purely mental reaction, but is something which is found on all levels and is instinctual in some form in all kingdoms, even the lower ones, without self-consciousness. And he says, and this is axiomatic, meaning that you use it as an abiding principle, which is an axiom, which is self-evident, which is always true. He goes on to say, the five senses bring physical plane knowledge. Psychic sensitivity brings the knowledge of the astral plane, and mind brings intellectual perception. But all three are aspects of the light of knowledge coming from the soul as it informs its vehicles of expression in the vast threefold environment in which it, i.e. the soul, chooses to imprison itself for purposes of development. I guess development of the kind that makes it possible for the soul, its consciousness, to handle those lower worlds in a goal-fit, plan-oriented manner. So within the world of the personality, all kinds of knowledges are possible, and beyond as well, all kinds of knowledges are possible. But the real wisdom and the real loving understanding has to be built up out of that knowledge. And that's not necessarily a foregone conclusion that will happen immediately. We have to work at it. I guess, may I say that all of us are getting the idea that advancement on the path of occultism means work. And one of the last things that Master DK said as he was ending his instructions, he said, work, my brothers. So that's very simple, right? And then we have the choice as to whether to work in a constructive manner or whether to just kind of slide along and not spend our energy in the right way for real individual and group advancement. Master DK goes on a higher turn of the spiral, the intuition is the expression of the threefold triad. And remember, may I say, how the triad derived from the monad and is somehow the expression of the monad on three lower levels of vibration. So if we can get some kind of idea as to the feeling, a feeling sense of what the experience on those three levels of the triad may be, then we'll have a more working knowledge of what it is meant to express. These are the higher issues, and with them solar angels and deal and masters deal. So DK, repeating what he says here, on a higher turn of the spiral, and notice how we use that word spiral, because the factor of repetition is there. A similarity, but not an identical point of revelation. Every turn has a similarity to a turn below, but a higher degree of revelation. So he says the intuition is the expression of the threefold spiritual triad. If we want to make things simplify the idea a little bit, placing it in relation to the higher levels of divine expression. And here's where, he does tell us what is the origin of it all. He goes on to say, it is a result of the life of the monad. The life of the monad, the very essence of the monad, which is reality itself, being itself. He says, it is the result of the life of the monad, an energy which carries a revelation of divine purpose. Shall we say, in one sense, from the monadic plane, and in another sense, from a still higher perspective, from the logoic plane, whereon a newly liberated monad finds its new containment within either the Father, the Son, or the Holy Spirit. So we have to think above and think below both. And when we start thinking way above, we might say, well, what has this got to do with me? But we really have to think, who is this me we're talking about? Sometimes when people talk to me, they say, I want this, I want that. And I say to them, well, which I is talking now? And they seem a little perplexed because they haven't thought it over. Which is the I that is verbalizing what is wanted? We've got a lot of different I's. From what level of I, from what point of tension are we speaking? And I think we will find often, and it's a little bit humbling, that we are speaking from the point of view of the aspiring personality. And DK warns us about that. He says, I'm not talking to you as if you are aspiring personalities. I'm talking to you as if you really are the soul. And your success in meditation will be based on whether you can center consciousness within the soul, or this solar angel, or the angel of the presence. So, revelation of divine purpose. Now, for how many of us is that a reality? I guess we'd be doing well enough if we could simply get the revelation of the plan, and a little bit of it at that. Okay, DK goes on. It is in the world of this divine revelation that the disciple learns eventually, now there's the word, eventually to work, and in which the initiate consciously functions. In the world of assured understanding of the plan as it reflects the archetypal purpose, which is still a higher thing. I think it would be a very good thing if all of us could learn somehow to be purpose-driven. Now, in a way, when we start to respond to our rising sign, which are called the driving energies of the rising sign, with that rising sign called the potency of the sun of possibility, but not of necessarily of probability, we're taking our first steps towards really responding to soul purpose, and naturally to ranges of purpose beyond that, that the angel of the presence even can conceive. Although, of course, it's a very high being. It's a question of what it can get across to us. Every once in a while, I just stop myself and I say, isness first, being first, reality first, stillness first. Because in the stillness, well, it's the presence is revealed. The presence first, and then the details. So going on with DK, of this higher experience, the active life of the three worlds is a distorted expression, but constitutes also the training ground in which capacity to live the initiate life of intuitional perception and to serve the plan is slowly developed. Maybe this is another way of saying this, is that the stone quarry from which the stones for the Temple of Solomon, Solar Man, are hewed is not the same as the temple that later will be inhabited. I mean, you may be working laboriously in the quarry so that one day the rough stones can be made into smooth stones. The masons have a term for all that, and fit together with right exactitude. Sometimes I think about those kind of walls, or I don't know what they are. I think they are walls made of perfectly fashioned stones which fit together so perfectly that the theorists can't figure out how the ancient people of, I think it was Peru, how did they do that? Of course, they had a lot of abilities over gravity that we are only now rediscovering. But the stones, the polished stones from the quarry of our life down here are meant to be lifted up as qualities into the Temple of Solomon, the causal body, and to fit together with right exactitude. It might be quite a revelation, I would say, if we could actually see the condition of our causal body, our egoic lotus. We might be able to imagine a little, but the master sees and knows and judges what is of value to us to impart on the basis of the condition of the Temple of Solomon. Manly Hall calls it the Temple of Solar Man, which is, that makes a lot of sense. So anyway, down here, we're sweating it out, but it's all for a beautiful purpose of the perfect temple, which of course one day must give way to something still higher, temple after temple. Every great collection of energies, every great ring past knot is a kind of temple. The circle of Father, the circle of Son, the circle of Holy Spirit, those are temples. And so it is with the causal body of the solar logos and beyond and beyond. They are all temples where you can cultivate certain qualities, but eventually you outgrow the confines of even the most beautiful temple, even as, well, let's say the most beautiful temple of all must be the universal temple. And even that breaks and gives way to something supra-universal. But that's, another matter. So a training ground, we're being trained in the lower quarries of life, and things can be difficult. But Master Moria encourages us, he says, when will you at last realize that obstacles are possibilities? Okay. And then he adds something even more challenging, the worse, the better. Okay. Well, to see things from his point of view it's not yet our point of view, is it? Anyway, going on with DK, these distinctions in time and space, because now note this, all distinctions are part of the great illusion. What a statement. Because all distinctions are part of the great illusion, though necessary and inevitable when the mind controls, must be carefully considered. Well, that's a real ponderable. And when I see that, that's why I try and encourage others to try to look in all directions and see, feel in the heart, distinctionlessness, sameness. sameness first. That's an easy one to say. It's like isness first, sameness first. Then if you want to get into the this and the that. Going on with decay, disciples will reach a point in their development where they will know whether they are reacting to the light of the soul or to the intuitional perception of the triad. Now, does that seem to be a meaningless statement to us? He promises that this will take place. Disciples will reach a point in their development where they will know whether they are reacting to the light of the soul, in which case their knowledge will be increasing, or to the intuitional perception of the triad, in which case they will be participating in the perspectives of God, the planetary logos, at least at first, or Sanat Kumara as an extension of that planetary logos. Decay goes on. They will then come to the point where they will realize that intuitive perception, as they call it, he's kind of hinting, isn't he, that maybe what we call intuitive perception is not really, but he gives us some definition here, that intuitive perception is only the reaction of the illumined personality to the identification tendency of the triad. Now, right there, if we want to know where this factor of identification comes from, we'll realize that as we build the antikarana, we're much more likely to experience something of that identification which the Christ has perfected. And that, serious antikarana building is occurring around the time of the second initiation. They will then come to the point, DK says, where they will realize that intuitive perception, as they call it, is only the reaction of the illumined personality, should we say the soul illumined personality, to the identification tendency of the triad. Now, right there, we're being told one of the sources of identification. And if we can do sameness first, then we're on our way to having the experience of identification and not just the words. But he concludes, but these concepts are beyond the grasp of the average man because fusion and identification are by no means the same. Well, it's a real ponder on this, isn't it? Ponder on this. Well, I think that's far enough to go. You know, we don't cover a lot of pages, but maybe something of value is emerging, and certainly from Master Decay and reading his words, we're on page 195. Something of value is definitely, potentially emerging. So I'll do my usual and hope that I really regret that I cannot do as I used to do so many things early in the morning. I just have to guard the situation. So this is, and this is BL. You can see if I'm doing the right thing here. And this today is the 30th of July. And next one will be 182, I guess. And we don't know, at least I don't know yet when that'll be. Maybe someone knows. And it'll be reading 119. And it'll be from 195 to however far we get, even if it's only a page. The idea is, DK said, look, read more carefully. Read more carefully. Well, for me, sometimes that means read more slowly and ponder on this. And then my reading, your reading, will take on a vertical dimension and not just kind of a skittering over the surface of things. After studying these books, I now realize for 50 years, I mean, I opened them before that. I opened them in a metaphysical bookstore, and I said, how could anyone write all this? And I was doing theosophy at the time, so I decided to stick with that and not really open the books. But then 50 years ago, I really did. And I've been, I would say, relatively faithful to the project ever since that time. So it's not all about study, but if you add meditation, study, and application and service, you pretty well have that triangle we need to make your advancement and mine upon the path of occultism a greater probability. All right.
Michael, you need to change the pages on the top part of that. 194 to 195.
Right. Righto. Thank you. There's so many things that, wow, real progress, huh? One page, okay. But yes, in a way, yes. Thank you. And does anybody have the day for the next one, or is it not yet? Should be in August sometime, I guess.
I don't have the calendar, but I just asked Tuya to unmute. If she can talk, she might be able to tell us.
Whoa. Something has just happened here. I hope I haven't.
Okay, I will check that. Wait a second.
I seem to have Have I erased everything?
Don't save, don't save.
Let's see here. Glamour world problem. Absolutely use this.
Okay,
So what?
close, well, can you do undo? Can you hit undo up there at the top near the save? Because it does look like you have a blank document there.
Something's wrong. And
if it's a month away, it would be on August 27th. And if it's 2 weeks away, it would be on August 13th.
yeah,
Michael, you
20th.
have to,
yeah.
you have to go up there and do undo. You somehow
What?
lost everything in your document.
Where is undo?
The little arrow up there on the, up at the top left. More
Here?
left, more left, more left. You're almost there. Oops, too far. Now go down one row and
Yeah.
over a little bit. You're almost there. Go up a little bit. Now over
This.
that.
Is that it?
Click it again. Click it again.
Ah, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, well, saved. Oh, wow. Glamour world problem. Glamour text, my problem. And let's see where we are here. There we are. Okay.
Okay, and Tuia says it's on the 13th of August
Uh-huh.
at 5 p.m.
Okay. 13th of August. Thank you for your help. And let's see if I can get here where I need to go. Okay, 13th of August. And this must be it. Is this it?
Now I think you need to go down one more.
One more. Okay. Okay.
There.
Thank you. Thank you. And you can understand why things happen. 13th of August. Okay, now
Yes, and she says then the one after that will be the 27th of August.
okay, well, I'll cross that when I get to it, okay? So I will cross that one when I get to it. And here, wait a second. I was wrong in where I put that, wasn't I? This was 13th of, this was 30th of July. I'm sorry for the delay, folks, but that's how I am with some of these, technical matters. In my own case, might be better to develop the concrete mind rather than the abstract mind. Okay, so here we are. So the next one is 13th of August. That's the day that the University of the Seven Rays was founded, one day after Blavatsky's birthday. Just happened to be that way. Okay. Thank you for reorienting me. Now, are there questions or comments that I can address or anybody can address. And then we'll get into our meditation on helping to eradicate suspicion.
Okay. Anne says, is there a technique of light of which we are discussing that is best and allowed to aid an individual as opposed to all of humanity?
Yeah, there is actually. And he basically gives us it's very much like the big one, but he gives us the technique, only we apply it to our own detected or in process of detection individual glamours. It's pretty much the same. And we'll, I think around page 120 in the book, we will find those individual glamours and maybe what to do with them, but we'll be
Michael?
coming up. Yeah. You don't see anything?
I'm looking for it and I will put it in the chat to everyone, but you actually have on the Makara page where we have the glamour recordings, you have the individual glamour meditation as well as the group glamour meditation.
Oh, good.
So I'll put that link in the chat box.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you. And Anne, we might not do the meditation for humanity every day, or for our nation, but if you have detected something going on, a hint at individual glamour, then it's assumed that you and I and everybody who has detected that will be working on it in an individual way. So BL will get that up for us on Makara. I mean, it is on Makara. She'll direct us there. Okay. This is really an ongoing exercise. These people who are part of what's called the observers of reality, it's almost like a daily thing, even if it's done shortly, because something's holding us back, from a real perception of higher realities. What are those things? Illusions, glamours, mayas, what are they? We've got to use DK's method to deal with them, and we will be more successful, I would think. And just pause for a second, everybody, and just think. Does any one of those many, many glamours, which he lists, or maybe that he doesn't list, impress you as something that you need to work with? It strikes me that that a lot of these things are derived from a very great planetary glamour that's built into matter itself. It's the glamour of fear. And it has been said that the members of the Black Lodge look at it as a very bad sign when a human being becomes fearless. So here the root more particular glamour. And of course, he does get into it. My connection is unstable, it says. He does get into that in various places. I was just reading it the other day in the discipleship book, 9 customary glamours. And I think if you study what I sent out on section 1, volume 1, section 1, part 4 of Discipleship in the New Age video commentary, you'll see what those 9 are. But it takes a little digging, you know, because glamours hide away, and other people around us are more likely to see them in us than we are likely to see them in ourselves. Okay, anything else?
I don't. Oh, okay. Yeah. Hold on just a second. Olivia says, Michael, you mentioned the 5 masters working under Master DK, and it makes sense they might represent the 5 subrays under 2.2. She says, what else can you say about them?
Well, just that they are masters of subsidiary ashrams to the 2/2 ashram. Now, Master DK from the monadic point of view obviously has a lot of third ray. From the final logoic point of view, we just don't know, but he is a profound teacher, and I would say that he would be, from the logoic point of view, centered in what's called the Son aspect, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, you know. So the second aspect. From the monadic point of view, I would say the third ray, but when it comes to the subsidiary ashram, subsidiary to Master KH, which he says he is working through, I've toyed a lot with the idea, is it 2/3? There's reason to think it could be because he's got so much third ray, and he's willing to, you know, go anywhere and run anywhere and go on any errand. All of that suggests a lot of mobility and a lot of Gemini, but he's got that Taurus thing as well. Or if he really does have 5 masters working under him, which Master DK says he does, then the way to do that is to put him in the 2/2 ashram with the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the masters in those subsidiary ashrams, in a way embraced by his overview. Now, you know, we all have superiors, and Master DK, being the sort of the right-hand individual when it comes to Pythagoras, who is now Master KH, is obviously a highly developed assistant to Master KH, and he would be the supervisor of a number of these lesser masters who are coming along and ruling or creating, building these subsidiary ashrams. On the second ray, they are pretty well built up. Now, is the 2/4 ashram built up as much as all the rest? I don't know. It might be the one that is not built up as much. If you go to the Great Bear, the most faint star in that major asterism we call the Big Dipper is the 4th star. So maybe there's something about that more work is needed there than in the others, but I can see Master DK as the supervisor of those 5 masters and including them somehow in his ashram. That's what it means to me. And Master KH above him, and the Christ above Master KH, and Sanat Kumara above the Christ, and the planetary logos above Sanat Kumara, and on we go. So that's my present hypothesis with regard to Master DK's position. Very much a combination of 2 and 3, but he says, I have first ray chelas in my ashram because I have somewhat of the first ray in my triadal nature. And that's another thing to ponder on, how that first ray fits in his triadal nature. These are speculative issues, okay? And, you know, very interesting. We don't have to necessarily solve them. The main thing we have to do is pay attention to what he says, close attention, and then try to fulfill in detail what he says to do. Then at least we'll be doing something of what we can actually do. Okay. Anything else here?
That's all I see.
That's probably good because, you know, we've got to get going on our meditation. Well, you know, great book, Glamour, a World Problem, and we're making our way through it, and with many, with the original words, and many, hopefully, light-inducing connections. We'll see how much light they induce for any one of us. I'll tell you, as I work with this brief mantra, sameness first, it's even easier than isness first. Sameness first. I'm seeing it can be quite profitable if we don't, you know, don't move your perception around too much. Just stay fixed, stay still until sameness appears. Then you can get into the form. Okay, so let me take a look here. Yeah, here is a, is this it? Yeah. Okay. This is our meditation, and it's familiar to us by now. The glamour is rife, R-I-F-E. And it is the root of projection. Thinking that the other guy has all these problems and you don't, when in fact you are projecting your problems on the other one. Maybe not to the same extent, but maybe even more so than is warranted. When I look at how some of our leaders are behaving or misbehaving, they are filled with suspicion. And it's just stopping the benefits of what leadership should be. They're just selling out, you know, and it's very, very dangerous. We mistrust the other person because basically deep down, we mistrust ourselves and are in our own psyche worthy of that mistrust. We just haven't cleaned house, and we just haven't seen how many things are still down at the bottom of our aura and like mud being thrown upon the other person. You know, it was brought up the other day. If you think that the Capitol insurrection was a normal day of tourism, then why were you wearing a bulletproof vest? I mean, come on. You know, the hypocrisy is extraordinaire, and the people are shameless about it. They're shameless about their hypocrisy because they have abandoned the good, the beautiful, and the true for the hunger, the satisfaction of the hunger for power. I won't get into it, but you know, we all know what we're talking about here, and it's spreading all over the world. I guess we could say that the rebellious personality is always suspicious of the soul, the angel of the presence, and always suspicious of those who represent the soul. It's just part of the battle. It's part of a battle that we cannot allow to see victory for the suspicious ones who have lost, who have taken leave of their reason. I think James Comey had it right, you know, when he spoke about the former guy in the White House. He says, untethered to the truth, untethered to truth. Okay, friends, so let's a little bit of an introduction of why suspicion is so dangerous. Just watch, you know, a lot of the insane people around you without a healthy psyche, and they are consumed by suspicion. It doesn't mean that things don't go on behind the scenes and all that, but it's an ongoing state of mind which is like destroying the psyche and the good that it can do. So let's have some silence first. And in this silence, of course, wherever we are located in time and space, we are coming together as much as possible in the dimension of soul. And in this silence, which right now we will not extend for 10 minutes, you feel unity and oneness overtaking the usual sense of distinction and division. So basically, we're moving towards working as one consciousness, which implies as one being. So this is working on the what DK calls the plane of greatest illusion. He uses the term illusion in a general sense, and we use this much needed protective formula with the long-armed cross, the cross of divinity, as he calls it. So forehead, heart, left eye, right eye. And we say either aloud at home, but muted as far as the group goes, or say interiorly, while making the lighted cross. As a soul, I work in light. And darkness cannot touch me. I take my stand within the light. I work. And from that point, I never move. So not only does the cross appear before each of us, but it appears protectively before the entire group. Now we work with the triple light. It's the light of matter and the light of mind, brought up to the mental plane, the one on which we usually work. And we also meditate upon the presence of soul light. Sometimes visualized above the head. And it all comes together on the mental plane. The light of matter, the light of the lower mind, and the light of the soul. Three lights blended into one. And following this statement, we sound the Om 3 times. The light is one, and in that light shall we see light. This is the light which turns the darkness into day. Oh. 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 Now the formula. With visualization. Visualizing as we say the formula, the great searchlight being turned on and turned towards the astral plane. Radiance are we, and power. We stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth, the inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus with the light we work and turn the darkness into day. And our beam goes forth onto the astral plane. It's a search beam, it's a beam of destruction and dissipation. It's as if the group has become the group unicorn. Now, we're going to strengthen the beam. And we'll use the following invocation of spiritual will to strengthen the beam. And we will say, with power upon its beam, the light is focused on the goal. So we name the glamour, and the light is thrown upon it as the words of power are uttered. The glamour of suspicion, which really warps the mind. It doesn't mean that we cannot investigate for the truth, but to carry always, constantly, this suspicion of thousands who are well-meaning and working on behalf of humanity is really a violation. It does corrode the consciousness. If you've ever seen corroded metal, you know it's very ugly. And like all glamours, there's fear behind it. When those who try to do good are always suspected of trying to do evil, we know that there's something wrong in the psyche of the suspicious one. It's hard to have absolutely pure motives, and we can always detect imperfections. But that's not the same as walking around and imputing evil of those who are simply trying to help humanity according to the skills that they have. Better should the suspicious one look to the dregs of his or her own aura and realize what it means to throw mud at others. So with those few ideas and the ones that you will supply, we will read these words of power and then have 5 minutes of silent pursuit in which you work at understanding to the best of your ability how to deal with each one. So it is as if the whole group says, the power of our united light prevents the appearance of the glamour of suspicion. And of course, one day we will have a humanity that trusts in each other. The power of our united light negates the quality of this glamour of suspicion from affecting man, affecting humanity. The power of our united light destroys the life behind the glamour of suspicion. visualize that light, our beam penetrating into the glamour during the next 5 minutes, producing its weakening and dissipation. In 5 minutes of silence and intensity of purpose, we see this work proceeding. So I'll bring us into silence here. suspicion. It doesn't mean that we cannot factually recognize where wrongdoing has occurred, but it is a tendency to impute evil where there is goodness and beauty and truth. So examine your own situation and see if this problem is part of your general attitudinal problem. We all could improve our character and our readiness to engage in those behaviors which do not serve the revelation of the good, the beautiful, and the true. So we withdraw our beam, redistribute the three lights, our attention is then turned away from the astral plane, and the searchlight of the soul is temporarily shut off. Then we sound the Om, and we continue working on our veils, that within us, in us, that veils reality. Okay, friends, all of us on the communications team wish you lots of love and many blessings. Tomorrow, Francis will be continuing with his, what is it, Secret Teaching of All the Ages?
Yes, but
Tomorrow.
it's Sunday. Sunday.
Oh, it's going to be on Sunday, right? Okay. So I don't think we have anything then tomorrow, as far as I know. But use the time to assimilate and apply and dwell with the new experiences that may come along, and do attempt to be with Francis, because he does a fine job of giving us a really good historical perspective on things, and treats the Blavatsky and Manley hall material in a way that will be illuminating for you, for all of us, really. So, that's it for the moment as far as I see. I think so, right, BL? That's it. And thank you, everybody.
Yes, you're getting in some thank yous. Let me see. Somebody asked about the document. Hold on a minute. Let me find that.
No, that was just me wondering.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And somebody's perhaps paranoia should be exchanged for suspicion. Well, they go hand in hand, don't they? Really. The belief that others are out to get you, that's based on suspicion, and it turns into paranoia. It's all kind of a first ray malfunction, we might say, with self-pity on the second ray and criticism on the third ray. So let's clean house best we can and be very observant. And when we think we've gotten rid of so many difficulties, look again, and let's get the bottom of the aura brought up into the light of day and dissipated. That will help us all, I'm sure. So I guess that's it, and thank you for your thank yous. All of us thank you, and we will persist. We will, as they said in the arcane school, keep on keeping on. Okay, we'll do our best. Do our best to do that, and this will be posted on Makara and on YouTube, and then the next also discipleship section 1, volume 1, section 1, part 4 will also be continuing, and it's great stuff. So try to find some time to study and listen. Alrighty. Thank you for your presence. And I'll be saying goodbye now, and see you soon.